Hey, what's up guys? My name's Chris Ray.
And I'm Martin Fobes.
And we're Motion Clubhouse. All right guys, welcome back to our second Q&A. I know it's been a long while, but it turns out when you start running a company and a business, you get kind of busy.
Get a little busy.
Yeah, but we're glad to be back. Thank you everybody that sent us the questions and got involved. How have you been?
I've been good, yeah. There's some great questions that got submitted. Thank you guys all for submitting, and I guess we'll get into it. We got some cool question cards today, so.
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So first question is from @Ron Schleffy. Do you miss the zoom rockers on the VX, HVX, or do you like using newer ways to zoom, such as using wheels and motors? That's a good question. I think for me, it's a trade-off. Like for skateboarding, it's definitely very, very nice to have that servo zoom, you know? But with today's cameras, with like a C70 or with Sony FX6, like I'd rather have the newer technology with the crazy autofocus and some of the newer frame rates. I'd rather kind of go that route than be stuck to the old servo on the VX or the HVX. And actually, I think even with the Sony FX6, I believe there is a lens that has a servo built in. So you'll get the servo and you'll get all the crazy autofocus, slow motion specs from the newer cameras.
I've definitely seen people rock the Sony FX6 with the 28-135. I think you'll see Bobby Bills with that kind of setup. Looking back, I kind of do miss that sometimes, but I do like the challenge. And I think that that's what got me excited to use DSLR lenses, things like that in filming skating, because I got so bored of just like how easy it was and there was no challenge. But now it just seems like normal to me. And
I mean, it's, if you are to servo zoom, or fisheye servo zoom, servo zoom, like if you do upgrade to, you know, like a mirrorless setup like an FX6 or a C70 or something, you're gonna be using lenses that aren't usually used in skating, and it's going to create a different look and a different feel for the videos that you're making. So like you're going to be able to get use a 7200 with autofocus, and it's going to look crazy for skating. Whereas, I mean, definitely there's like, skateboarding is the most authentic, and it was based around the VX with the servo zoom, and it's based around HVX with so it's like that's always going to be core to skating. So it's like
it's hard. Well, I think what you're trying to say too is that the trick is really what matters, right? So you as a filmmaker shouldn't do anything to ruin it.
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing I think I've learned was that it's like they're doing the trick. They're already doing the magic. Just capture it in the nice way that you should.
The best way, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. That's a good question.
Yeah. Very good question. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so Mike Thines says, hope I said your name right. What is your favorite camera to film documentary, commercial, and skateboarding? So very good question. Right now, I'm a big fan of the Canon C70. That has been kind of like a really good workhorse camera for us. The media files aren't super huge. The autofocus is amazing. The lenses look amazing. We love the C-Log 2. We shot This Too Shall Pass, the documentary that we did with DC Shoes and John Gardner on mental health. That's a really good example. If you're curious about the C70, you should definitely check that video out. And then a lot of our skateboarding for the last 2 years has been shot on the C70. So it's definitely a good camera that works for both cases. What about you?
I would say the C70 as well. It kind of works well for everything. It works well for skating, it works well for documentary filmmaking. For skating, a cool little hack is you can use the speed booster, the RF to EF speed booster. It's going to create a full frame field of view, and your fisheye is going to be even bubblier, and it's going to be great for skating. Another thing that's just cool about the C70 is they're constantly putting out firmware updates for it. They're constantly making it better and better. Like they just announced there's eye tracking coming out. I think face tracking and eye tracking is going to the variable frame rate modes, like the slow motion and stuff. So like that's that's a great update that's coming out. So I don't know, for me, for documentary filmmaking, for skateboarding, I think it's the C70, just because it's so versatile and built-in NDs, variable frame rates, great 10-bit color. There's RAW now. Like they gave it RAW through an update. Like
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Pretty cool.
Another big thing too, like I mentioned, the media files weren't super huge. I do feel like when I was filming Red with skateboarding, right, I felt like there's a lot of times I wouldn't over-record because I was so worried about how many gigs I was filling up and capturing, where now I feel like with the C70 I can just capture all day, film all day, it definitely like gives me that freedom to overshoot, which is always nice when you're editing.
For sure. And I think right now we both have two 256 gig cards. And it's like you're barely ever going to go past that one 256 gig card in a day. Like you'd have to be rolling nonstop all day to probably fill that. But yeah, Canon C70. It's good. It's a
good one.
camera.
Thank you for the question, Mike.
Ooh, that was a good one. This next question is from Follow the Roach. Hey Martin and Chris, can you guys touch a bit on your current machines for post-production? And yes, I will touch on this. This year, yeah, we both upgraded this year, right?
This was a big year for Mac.
Yeah, so this year we both upgraded to the new Mac Studio, and I think we both just like fully ramped up every single setting we could possibly get in that computer, and it's been absolutely amazing. There's been no issue. It's just been fast enough to handle anything I could ever throw at it. The biggest thing though is like, you know, when you're using those chunky like drone files, or even like the C70 at first, like the XFAVC files were kind of chunky and hard to play back. Well, with the newer like M1, M1 Ultra, M2, like all those new chips, they basically just like, they just chew through those files. Like it's not a problem at all. You can literally just spacebar any clip. Everything's just going to play flawlessly full res. So right now we each have Mac Studios with the Studio Display monitor, and I think it's like we have like 128 gigs of RAM, and then it's like the M1 Ultra chip, and then I think I have like 1 terabyte of storage because I never put anything on the actual computer, but it does, you know, programs and things eat up some space. But yeah, right now it's been a very, very awesome upgrade.
Yeah, we're also running a similar setup with our laptops. So our MacBook Pros are pretty much the same setups as the Studios. It's just that we use our laptops when we're traveling. And it's also just good to have as a backup, just in case your computer ever goes down, you have something there just to be safe. But that's been fantastic also.
Or also, yeah, I mean, even just for productivity, like say you could be creating 300 proxies, you know, with the laptop, but then you could also be editing on your Mac Studio. And I'm sure you could probably do it all in the same system because those computers are so fast, but it's just nice to have both. And if you're traveling, you know you can take on any project and work on the road. But yeah, Mac Studio, great setup.
Yeah, Mac did a good job this year. Awesome.
I keep on
He
hitting
keeps
you.
hitting me with it. Why do I keep getting hit with it? I didn't even hit you with it. Okay, so Free Coaster Creative says, hey Chris and Martin, love your work. Can you share some insights into your process for creating a shot list? How much do you plan ahead of time before going into a shoot, and how much flexibility do you give yourselves to try something spontaneous? So very good question. It really depends on the client and the project. Coming from skateboarding, we're very run and gun. I like to sometimes go into a project, depending on what it is again. Sometimes it will be what's the starting, what's the ending, and then the rest is going to kind of just all fill together. But then, you know, you also have times when you're creating a storyboard, right? So let's say somebody approaches us and they have a voiceover. We may take that voiceover, spread it out over a storyboard, and put what we imagine would be good for that shot. But we're definitely really good about always having the flexibility of adjusting that, right? So if we go out into the field with a storyboard, my biggest thing has always been like, let's not be locked into it. We might get something even better to replace that. I think that's been very key for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of times it's like, you can't plan every part of the day. Like there might be some magic moment that pops up. There might start raining and this epic shot shows up, and it's like you got to be able to work with those things and be like flexible and be okay with changing the script. And yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's, you know, it's really just, you know, for us working with clients too, it's like, well, what's your end goal? What are you trying to achieve? What's the vision that you guys have? And then, you know, just trying to make that happen, you know? So we're pretty flexible on everything. I think coming from skateboarding, it's like, and not knowing what's going to happen, I think that that's helped us be flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we always try, we definitely give ourselves a lot of flexibility to try something spontaneous. So I say that's one of our good things.
All right, this next question is from Gilbert Aguilar. Gilbert's our homie. What's up, man? I just bought a Sony FX30. SD cards make sense, but CF Express cards are new to me. If I want a card that supports all the shooting modes and I don't have time to learn about all the tech and details of these cards, which CF Express cards would you recommend? So in my experience with memory cards, I always I never go cheap on the memory cards because that's the most important part of the whole shooting process. You want to make sure your footage is safe and everything is on a secure, solid card. So I would say I definitely recommend going CF because those are going to be the fastest cards for that camera, and it's going to enable you. You're not going to have any limitations with frame rates or shooting slow motion or anything like that. Like you're going to basically be able to unlock every feature of that camera with the faster cards. So I would recommend. I mean, Chris and I both use Angelbird cards, and we both use Xascend Archon cards, and they're very, very fast and reliable and
red approved, which is good.
Red approved, and which is very, very good. They don't approve every card, but I would recommend Angelbird or Xascend for the FX30.
And like Martin said, like don't short yourself when it comes to memory cards or hard drives. You don't want to put in all that work. You don't want to capture footage and then have something happen with the card, things like that. I mean, to me, I'm like, you're right there. Like get the good memory card, get the good hard drives, just have it be reliable, be safe. Don't try to save money on it, just get the good ones.
Yeah, definitely don't go cheap on memory cards. Yeah. Thanks, Gilbert.
Ooh, didn't hit me that time. Thank you, Martin. Okay. All right, TJ Edits. How do you do quoting for projects without scaring clients off? Okay, this is my favorite question because this is the one that I feel like nobody has an answer to. And really, I think that actually, I was at a place the other day and I heard somebody was talking to the client and they said, the client asked the filmmaker, what quote are you going to give me for this? And I remember the filmmaker responded and said, why don't you tell me what the budget is, and then I can tell you what I'm able to do with that money, right? I mean, there's things that we're able to do for $1,000. There's things we're able to do with $20,000, right? Obviously, we can't bring more of our friends out. We can't bring more of the toys out, things like that. So it's really just gauging like with the client, how much money are they willing to spend, and what is their end goal? I mean, if you're trying to shut down downtown LA and you only have $1,000, that's obviously not going to happen. That's not possible. So yeah, it's really just kind of working with the client and getting them to understand that you're not trying to charge more because you want to charge more, right? It's like, well, what is it that you want to get out of this? That's kind of the best way I think to go about it.
Yeah, I think that's worked really well for us. Like, flipping that question at the beginning, like versus like, like us just pitching a budget for a job. It's like, well, we like to kind of ask like what they're working with, what's available beforehand, and then we can come back and we can see what's possible on our end with our resources that we have and like what we've done in the past. So I think that might be a good way to kind of approach it, is just to start with
and I
what they're working with.
I think as you start to do more jobs over and over, you start to realize what it is that you can do with $5,000, what it is you can do with $10,000, what you can do with 20, and what you can do with even more. So I think once you kind of do more of those and you learn, like if somebody came to me right now and they said, I have $10,000, I know off the top of my head how many people I'm able to hire, how many cameras I can get out there, the lighting, the audio, things like that. And I also know there's certain things that I can do to save some money, right? And cut a little bit here and there to make the project work. But you also want to be careful because you want to work with the client. Sometimes we'll take jobs for less money because we want to get in with the client and prove to them like that we're able to do this and kind of show them our hard work. But then we're very honest and clear with them and going like, hey, look, just so you know, we're doing this for less of a budget than we usually would. We would quote this much usually in the future, but we just wanted to kind of get in there and kind of show them what we're capable of doing and how hard we can work, because we want them to be our client.
Yeah, it's definitely a good. It's like, and that was something that, early on, like, I would definitely do that stuff. Like, I'd do things kind of for cheap just to get the foot in the door, just to get the experience and things like that. But if it's somebody that you really, really want to work with, I think it's okay to bid a little on the, cheaper side, just to get in there and work with them, because it could grow, it could turn into, even though it could be small, it could be something that they do once, every month for the rest of the year or something, if they like working with you and the budget's right. But but if you quote them crazy high and they work you that one time, then they might not, they'll be like, oh, that guy's way too expensive, we're never going to work with him again. So you gotta kind of read the situation and just kind of read the situation. And
it's a really hard one because there's no numbers out there, right? Like people aren't sharing how much they're making. People aren't sharing how much the budget is for a job. People aren't sharing how much the profits were on a job. So it's very difficult to know at the end of the day. I mean, we started Motion Clubhouse 6 months ago, right? And we're still trying to figure it out, but we're learning constantly. And it's been a really fun like challenge and exciting time to learn all that stuff. So yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, very good question. We're still trying to find the answers ourselves, but we're there. We're there. All right. I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
Right? So we just spent the last 10 years together at DC Shoes.
Yes.
Okay, we're no longer with DC anymore. But looking back, right, we had some amazing times.
We did.
What was your most favorite project that you did with DC? And what was the thing that you'll always look back at DC and your time and say, this is what I learned when I was there?
Yeah, it's a good question. There was a lot of good times. Like there's a lot of trips I want to bring up, but the one, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I think the best, most exciting trip we've ever done was the Tahiti trip with Robbie Madison. It was a month-long trip in Tahiti, a bunch of skate filmers hanging out on this island, trying to make this crazy project work. That Robbie Madison's trying to ride a motorcycle on this wave. It's this crazy thing. But the thing that I kind of took back and learned from that trip is just almost like just having a positive attitude about the entire situation. And like, so Robbie is basically like, he hung with us the whole time. He was never too cool, never like, he was down helping us with everything.
His work ethic was absolutely incredible.
Whereas
like, the amount of trips we've been on, and like when we got to the airport, Robbie was like helping us with all of our cases and our bags. And I remember right then I was blown away with like, wow, this guy's helping us and he doesn't have to.
And I mean, if Robbie didn't have that work ethic and wasn't that nice and wasn't such a genuine guy, we might have all like, it was a hard trip as is. Everybody got sick. Everybody had like all these issues. Like people were getting hurt because it was just, you're on this crazy island. Everybody's getting cut and infections. And
we all said after being in Tahiti for a month, we all said we needed to go on vacation when it was done with.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's ever happened to anybody.
It was a heavy, hard trip. But if Robbie's attitude wasn't so positive and the work environment wasn't so exciting and fun, then we all probably would have been crazy bummed, but we weren't, because it was such a good environment and everybody wanted to make this thing work, and it was such a good like team. There's just like good team morale and everybody was just like wanting to make this thing happen. And so it was like an awesome, even though everybody's getting sick and getting cuts and infections, it's like everybody wanted to make this happen. It was the greatest trip.
Yeah, and I'd say for me, like on that trip, it definitely, I think at DC, we always had kind of assignments that were given to us where it was like, okay, you're in charge of this one, you're in charge of this one, and you kind of have to go off and do it. But this one was one that we really had to come together as a team and work together. And that was a big difference for me, because usually it's kind of like, we all work there, but we're all doing different assignments. And it boosted my confidence to know that, wow, if I have a really good team, we can do anything. And I still look back and I go, okay, we can film a guy riding a motorcycle on a wave, we can do anything, right? Like we pulled that off, we can pull, any other shoot off. So definitely was a big confident booster.
And there is a full behind the scenes to that entire shoot, the entire project, and we'll put that like in the description for this video, so you can kind of get a glimpse of what we had to deal with. I don't think we go too much into the crew stuff, but you'll get an idea of like what we were trying to capture and what we were trying to do. So check that out. Yeah. And then I guess I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So you've been filming skating way longer than me.
It makes me sound really old.
I mean, yeah. But how many years have you been filming skating? Like 20?
Shoot. Okay, so.
Because you've been at DC for like 12 years, 10, 12 years?
It was 11 years at DC, and then I was at Transworld for maybe 5 years before that.
So maybe like.
And then Lakai,
maybe 16, 17 years or
something?
something?
We'll just say 20 years.
Okay.
Okay.
Been filming skateboarding for 20 years straight.
Yeah.
What is your favorite skateboard trick that you've ever filmed?
Favorite skateboard trick? I've told this one before, but Stefan Janowski, switch flip crook at UC Davis. We had gone the entire summer to try to get this trick, and it wasn't like we need to go get this, we need to get this. It was just, we lived in the area. We just go to UC Davis all the time, and he would try switch flip crook and not really get into him, you know. And I probably filmed him try it thousands of times, and then it just wouldn't happen.
Did that get you? Was that in the Nike video or a Transworld?
That was in the Habitat video. It was the last trick in the
Oh, that's what it was.
Habitat video, yeah. And I remember when he did it, it was a very magical day because like Brandon Beeble was there, Omar Salazar, Jeff Landy, Matt Miller, Stefan's dog, Liam was there, and he just he did it. He switch flipped, got into the crook, and landed it and rolled away. And that was so groundbreaking at the time. Like nobody had done that on a street rail, and he did it. And I just remember filming it. And when you film so many attempts over and over and over, and then somebody actually lands it and rolls away, you're like, you kind of just black out. Like I remember blacking out and being like, wait, did he just do it? Did he make it?
It's like you hear about blackout for like skaters,
Yeah.
like blacking out, but it's like the filmer's blacking out because
Yeah.
it was like he's trying it so many times.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just, I remember like he rolls away and like everybody just comes together to celebrate. And it was, I mean, dude, Stefan's like one of my favorite skaters out there, and that was just such a rad trick to get, you know. And
Yeah, I remember when that came out. I was completely blown away. Like,
yeah, I think,
and he like Stefan was like one of my favorite skaters growing up too, because he was like, he had sick tray flips and like, he's tall, kind of like me, and like I don't know, I like really liked his parts, and then he had that, and I mean that still holds up to like today. Like, there's only like 2 people out there doing like switch flip crooks on like rails or like ledges, you know, like that's insane.
I remember when I showed you, or I think I posted the clip, and you were like, "You filmed that?"
Yeah,
You know, so
that's
yeah,
crazy.
It's it definitely goes down like in my memory as one of my favorite tricks I've ever filmed. So
That's a good one.
yeah, I'm very, very, very lucky for that. So, but I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everybody that submitted questions for the Q&A. We can't thank you enough. We're gonna do these a lot more often now. We've got Gage behind the camera, so Gage, thank you very much. We're gonna do these more often. So keep submitting the questions. Make sure you guys subscribe, share the videos, do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and also like let us know what you like and what you maybe don't like, or just what we can do differently in the comments, and we're still figuring things out. So we'll do what we can do, and we want to make this a cool account for you guys.
Awesome.
So yeah, thanks for checking it out.